Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Patreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. So, continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 13, Dhritarashtra quits home. Text number 48 onwards. Text 48. Tadidam Bhagavan Rajaneka Rajan Eka Atmatmanam Sudrik Antro Anantaro Bhati Pashyatam Mayayorudha. So Narad Muni is further telling Yudhishthira Maharaj, therefore, O king, you should look to the Supreme Lord only, who is one without a second, and who manifests himself by different energies and is both within and without. So therefore means so previously Narad Muni had told him that Supreme Lord is a controller of everything. He is the one who takes care of everybody. And he has made the creation in such a way that one living entity is a food for another living entity. So your uncle and aunt, they will eat something. Don't worry, they will be taken care of. So what so Narad Muni is saying now, the king, you should look to the Supreme Lord only. That this is your prime duty to see what Supreme Lord wants from you. The Supreme Lord, personality of Godhead, is one without a second, but he manifests himself by different energies because he is by nature blissful. The living entities are also manifestations of his marginal energy, qualitatively one with the Lord, and there are innumerable living beings both within and without the external and internal energies of the Lord. So the living beings are also manifestations of his marginal energy. Why marginal? Because we are the marginal or Tatastha Shakti. We have the choice. Either way, we can be in the interior energy, internal energy, or external energy of the Lord. So internal energy is Yogamaya, external energy is Mahamaya. So we have a choice. Right now, we are all in external energy, and we are trying to shift ourselves from Maya to Yogamaya. And there are innumerable living beings, both within and without the external and internal energies of the law. Since the spiritual world is manifestation of the Lord's internal energy, the living beings within that internal potency are qualitatively one with the Lord, without contamination from the external potency. Although qualitatively one with the Lord, the living being, due to contamination of the material world, is pervertly manifested, and therefore he experiences so called happiness and distress in the material world. So, although we are qualitatively one with the Lord, quantitatively we are very minute, but qualitatively we have the same qualities. But due to contamination of the material world, is pervertly manifested, and therefore he experiences so-called happiness and distress, just like Yudhishthira Maharaj was experiencing in this case, in the material world. Such experiences are ephemeral, means temporary, and they do not affect the spirit soul. Spirit soul is beyond all the material happiness or distress. But because we identify ourselves with the body, we think this body is me, and that's why happiness or distress that belongs to the body, we take it upon ourselves. And that's where the whole problem is. The perception of such ephemeral happiness and distress is due only to the forgetfulness of his qualities, which are equal to the Lord's. There is therefore a regular current from the Lord Himself, from within and without, by which to rectify the fallen condition of the living being. So the regular current or regular force is there from Krishna to rectify our fallen condition. Then when we think, when we have forgotten the Supreme Lord, forgotten our qualities, forgotten our relationship with Him, this is that's why uh, we are in the fallen conditions state. From within, he corrects the desiring living being as localized Paramatma. And from outside, he corrects by his manifestations of the spiritual master and the revealed scriptures. One should look into the Lord. One should not be disturbed by the so called manifestations of happiness or distress, but he should try to cooperate with the Lord in his outward activities for correcting the fallen souls. So this is what Narad Muni is telling Yudhishthira Maharaj. Do not worry about your uncle and aunt. Look to see what Krishna wants from you. By his order only, or by Krishna's order, one should become a spiritual master and cooperate with the Lord. One should not become a spiritual master for one's personal benefit, for some material gain, or as an avenue of business or occupation for earning livelihood. Bona fide spiritual masters who look unto the Supreme Lord to cooperate with Him are actually qualitatively one with the Lord, and the forgetful ones are perverted reflections only. Yudhishthira Maharaj is advised by Narad, therefore, not to be disturbed by the affairs of so called happiness and distress, but to look only unto the Lord to execute the mission for which the Lord has descended. That was his prime duty. So prime duty was to see what Krishna had descended for and to help him in that mission. Of course, Yudhishthira Maharaj was looking, or he was trying to figure out about Dhritarashtra and Gandhari out of his respect for them, and that's also one of his duties. But there are different sets of duties, and Narad Muni is stressing upon the prime duty or the most important duty. Text 49. सोऽयम् अद्य महाराज भगवान भूत भावना काल रूप अवतीर्णो अस्याम भावाय सुर द्विषाम. That Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna, in the guise of all devouring time, Kala Rupa, has now descended on earth to eliminate the envious from the world. So he has appeared, Krishna has appeared in the guise of all devouring time, Kal Rupa. So in the form of death, he is going to eliminate the envious, or he has now descended and he is going to eliminate the envious from the world, envious of Krishna. There are two classes of human beings, namely the envious and the obedient. Since the Supreme Lord is one and the Father of all living beings, the envious living beings are also his sons, but they are known as asuras. But the living beings who are obedient to the Supreme Father are called devatas or demigods because they are not contaminated by the material conception of life. So, or we can say they have little material conception of life because devatas also sometimes they go against Krishna. Not only are the asuras envious of the Lord and even denying the existence of the Lord, but they are also envious of all other living beings. The predominance of asuras in the world is occasionally rectified by the Lord when he eliminates them from the world and establishes a rule of devatas like the Pandavas. So devatas are the ones who are obedient to the Supreme Father. So any devotee can be called a devata because they all are obedient. His designation as Kal in disguise is significant. He is not at all dangerous, but he is a transcendental form of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. For the devotees, his factual form is disclosed, and for the non devotees, he appears like Kala Rupa, which is the causal form. This causal form of the Lord is not at all pleasing to the asuras. And therefore, they think of the Lord as formless in order to feel secure that they will not be vanquished by the Lord. So, this form of the Lord, which is Kala Rupa, or the time personified, is not at all pleasing to the Asuras because they know this Kal has come to kill them. And Prabhupada is saying, and therefore they think of the Lord as formless in order to feel that they will not be vanquished by the Lord or his time. But ultimately, everybody has to die. So they will be vanquished. But even if they feel that the Lord is formless. So, so looking at this point, 99% of the population thinks that the Lord is formless, Nirakar. Right? We must have heard so many so-called gurus, and they always say Krishna, the Supreme Lord, is Nirakar. Be it Radha Swami, be it Brahm Kumaris, be it any other major followers, major following, they all believe that the Supreme Lord has no form. It is either light, or it's energy, or it is void. So, according to this verse here, everybody is a asura. All those people, they can be categorized as asuras because they're envious of the form of the Lord, because they don't believe in the form of the Lord. They don't want to surrender to the form of the Lord. They are not obedient to the instructions of the Lord. They make up their own instructions, they make up their own teachings. So, according to this verse, they all fall in the category of asuras. Of course, I mean, they're wonderful people. They, they must be very, very moral people, very gentle people, highly qualified materially, but they're not devotees. That's the only fault. So one has to be careful of when we go and listen to people, when we go and listen to some very good speaker. So speaker could be good. From his viewpoint, he's all right. From his viewpoint, um, his learnings and his realizations are great. But if you look at from the viewpoint of Srimad Bhagavatam, that knowledge is good for nothing actually. Of course, Chanakya Pandit said, and Prabhupada has quoted him many times, if somebody gets gold, if it is lying in a gutter, one should take it. If somebody gets a wonderful, very qualified wife, even though she comes from a low family, one should accept that girl as wife. And even the knowledge, even if it is coming from low born Shudra or Chandal, if the knowledge is pure, one should take it. So even though, I mean, first of all, we should not go listen to any such people who don't believe in the form of the Lord, first of all. And even though one listens to them, just take the good points. One can take the good points from them. The good points are everywhere. Just like Srila Prabhupada himself, he criticized Ramakrishna Paramhans because ultimately he was Mayavadi or his follower like Swami Vivekananda. But he asked his disciples to go learn the art of management, how to manage the ashram from uh, this Swami Ramakrishna Paramhans. He said their art of management is very wonderful. So one can take knowledge, material knowledge, or anything that helps him to grow spiritually from anybody. But at the same time, if we are not very fixed up in our philosophy, we should try to avoid as far as possible listening to all these people. Although they sound very nice, wonderful people. I mean, nothing against a person, but when it comes to philosophy, that's where the problem is. So, only thing is one has to be very careful. Text 50. Nishpaditam devkrityam avishesham pratikshate tavad yuyam avdhekshatvam bhaved yavad iheshwaraha. The Lord has already performed his duties to help the demigods, and he is awaiting the rest. You Pandavas may wait as long as the Lord is here on earth. So Narad Muni indirectly told Yudhishthira Maharaj and all the Pandavas that you have to help Krishna in performing his duties, and you wait here as long as he's here on the earth. Means very soon he's going to depart. He's going to wind up his pastimes and he's going to depart. In fact, he had already departed because Narad Muni came after Vidurji came, and Vidurji took Dhritarashtra in the forest or to the Himalayas. And Vidurji had come only after Krishna had departed. So Narad Muni is indirectly hinting. The Lord descends from his abode, Krishna Loka, the topmost planet in the spiritual sky, in order to help the demigod administrators of this material world. When they are greatly vexed by the asuras, who are envious not only of the Lord but also of his devotees. So there are asuras, or they have the asuric nature to different extent, different degrees. So they could be asuras who could be very peaceful, very moral, and they could be asuras who could be disturbing the whole universe. As referred to above, the conditioned living beings contact material association by their own choice, dictated by a strong desire to lord it over the resources of the material world and become imitation lords of all they survey. Everyone is trying to become an imitation God. What is imitation God? The real God, Krishna, is the original proprietor, controller, and enjoyer of everything. We try to become imitation God, that we try to control. We say, I'm the proprietor, I'm the enjoyer of everything. Everyone is trying to become an imitation God. When there is keen competition amongst such imitation gods, and such competitors are generally known as asuras. So there is keen competition among such imitation gods. Means if somebody tries to encroach upon my property, which I think I am the controller of that, and I am the enjoyer of that, then I will retaliate. There'll be a competition, not just competition, there'll be fight between two imitation gods. When there are too many asuras in the world, then it becomes hell for those who are devotees of the Lord. Due to the growth of the asuras, the mass of people who are generally devoted to Lord by nature and the pure devotees of the Lord, including the demigods in higher planets, pray to the Lord for relief, and the Lord either descends personally from his abode or deputes some of his devotees to remodel the fallen condition of the human society or even animal society. So when the situation becomes so terrible, Krishna himself comes, or he deputes his devotees, some of his devotees. Such disruptions take place not only in human society but also among animals, birds, or other living beings, including the demigods in the higher planets. Lord Shri Krishna descended personally to vanquish asuras like Kansa, Jarasandha, and Shishupal. And during the reign of Maharaj Yudhishthira, almost all these asuras were killed by the Lord. Now he was awaiting the annihilation of his own dynasty called the Yaduvansha, who appeared by his will in this world. He wanted to take them away before his own departure to his eternal abode. Narad, like Vidura, did not disclose the imminent annihilation. Okay, so annihilation hadn't taken place, but imminent, it was about to take place. But indirectly gave a hint to the king and his brothers to wait till the incident happened and the Lord departed. In fact, Narad Muni was present in that group of sages who cursed this boy Samba, son of Krishna, who had dressed up like a pregnant woman. And when all the boys asked the sages, "Oh, who is this lady going to give birth to?" And the sages cursed them. He said, "You're making fun of us? We curse you that whatever is born of this so-called woman will be the cause of the destruction of the whole Yadu dynasty." And actually, that's when this iron club was found in the stomach of this, hidden inside the clothes of Samba, and that iron club basically became the cause. Well, not became the cause; it was a secondary cause. Original cause was Krishna's desire to vanquish the Yadu dynasty. Now Narad Muni will disclose the real thing, where Dhritarashtra has gone. Dhritarashtra se bhratra Gandharya chasvabharyaya dakshinena himavat rishinam ashramam gataha. O king, your uncle Dhritarashtra, his brother Vidura, and his wife Gandhari have gone to the southern side of the Himalaya mountains, where there are shelters of the great sages. To pacify the mourning Maharaj Yudhishthir, Narad first of all spoke from the philosophical point of view, and then he began to describe the future movements of his uncle, which he could see by his foreseeing powers, and thus began to describe as follows. श्रोतोभि सप्तभिर्यावे स्वरधुनि सप्तधा व्यधात् सप्तानां भृते नाना सप्तस्रोतः प्रचक्षते. The place is called Saptasarota, divided by Saptasrotas, divided by seven, because they are the waters of the sacred Ganges were divided into seven branches. This was done for the satisfaction of the seven great rishis. So they went pretty much all the way to Gangotri. Snatva anusavanam tasmin hutva chagni yatha vidhi abhaksha upishantatma sa aste vigatashnaha. On the banks at Saptasrota, Dhritarashtra is now engaged in beginning Ashtanga Yoga by bathing 3 times daily, in the morning, noon, and evening, by performing the Agnihotra sacrifice with fire and by drinking only water. This helps one control the mind and the senses and frees one completely from thoughts of familial affection. And so Dhritarashtra, he was living there drinking only water of Ganges. And Narad Muni says this helps one control the mind and the senses. For us, even on the day of Ekadashi, it's difficult just to live on water. We have to eat so many different preparations. And then we think of why my mind is not in control, why my senses do not come under control. So one has to control his eating first. Then he can hope for controlling our mind and the senses. The yoga system is a mechanical way to control the senses and the mind and divert them from matter to spirit. The preliminary processes are the sitting posture, meditation, spiritual thoughts, manipulation of air passing within the body, and gradual situation in trance, facing the absolute person, Paramatma. Such mechanical ways of rising to the spiritual platform prescribe some regulative principles of taking bath daily 3 times, fasting as far as possible, sitting, and concentrating the mind on spiritual matters, and thus gradually becoming free from Vishaya or material objectives. Material existence means to be absorbed in the material objective, which is simply illusory. House, country, family, society, children, property, and business are some of the material coverings of the spirit, Atma. And the yoga system helps one to become free from all these illusory thoughts and gradually turn towards the absolute person, Paramatma. By material association and education, we learn simply to concentrate on flimsy things, but yoga is a process of forgetting them altogether. Modern so called yogis and yoga systems manifest some magical feats, and ignorant persons are attracted by such false things. So they accept the yoga system as a cheap healing process for diseases of the gross body. So actually, yoga is not for that, just to not just to heal the diseased body. It should go, it needs to go higher, much further up. Factually, the yoga system is a process of learning to forget what we have acquired through the struggle for existence. Dhritarashtra was all along engaged in improving family affairs by raising the standard of living of his sons, or by usurping the property of the Pandavas for the sake of his own sons. These are common affairs for a man grossly materialistic and without knowledge of the spiritual force. He does not see how this can drag one from heaven to hell. By the grace of his younger brother Vidura, Dhritarashtra was enlightened and could see his grossly illusory engagements. And by such enlightenment, he was able to leave home for spiritual realization. We may note that with profit how Dhritarashtra began his yoga system by drinking water only and sitting calmly in a place with a spiritual atmosphere, deeply absorbed in the thoughts of Lord Hari, the personality of Godhead. So Dhritarashtra, in the end, he achieved Vaikuntha Loka by becoming a yogi, and then the leaving the body. Later on, we'll see leaving the body at his own will. So we'll stop here. See anybody's any question or comment.
Prabhuji, Ekadashi, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Ekadashi fasting, very well you have explained. So 3-4 years back, I started with Shivratri fasting, and because there was no habit, so I was just looking for whatever my mom cooks, like boiled potatoes, could be peanuts and all. And I was looking every night 3-4 hours to have that. But gradually, steadily, gradually, slowly, in 3-4 years, now I can fast. At least that's won't be a problem now. It has
Yeah, we
become a
should
habit.
fast as much as possible. We should try. We should try. At least on Ekadashi, we should try. But only
As
fasting is not the recommendation. We should chant more and read more.
Prabhuji, fasting has also a scientific reason. Some biologist from Japan
Yes,
has explained it that it
yeah,
actually reduces some major diseases also.
yeah. But then again,
Yes.
Ekadashi fasting is not for reducing the disease. It's it can bestow upon us Krishna Prem
Mhm.
if
Yeah.
we do it properly. And that scientist, I know, he got the Nobel Prize for this. And the sages had written about Ekadashi fasting in the scriptures. It was so many thousands of years back they had written it.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Mm. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, we can stop here. You all have a wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Shila Prabhupada.